Hi everyone, and welcome to a new episode of Paratalk. And on this episode, it's nearly Halloween. And I thought, who could I get on an episode for Halloween? Well, of course, once again, I'm joined by Mr. Shrouded Hand himself, Tom. Hello, Tom.
Hello.
How are you?
I am good. Yeah.
Enjoying your weekend, your near weekend?
I've got a feeling it's going to chuck it down.
Yeah.
I've got a bit of a busy weekend. We've got some parties and things to go to, but the weather's getting bad, so I don't know. Yeah, it's nice. I like it when it starts getting cold. To be honest, it's nice and crisp at the minute, but
yeah,
I'd like it to stop raining for like 5 minutes.
Yeah, I don't mind the cold weather. I don't mind it when it's misty in the mornings. I don't mind that. There's a song there somewhere, I think. And but I don't like it when it's completely raining. That kind of, when it's wet. And if you remember a few years ago, Christmas time, for about 2 or 3 weeks, all it did was pretty much rain every day. That's all it did. It was just raining every day. And it's nothing worse than it being really cold and raining. So it can be a bit depressing. It's
like someone turned a switch. It was like summer hot weather for like weeks, and then all of a sudden it was like overnight, boom, freezing cold, raining. It was weird. Yeah,
it was really nice. We had a little bit of nice sunshine and a few nice warm days, but it's just sort of it's just gone. It's gone a bit crap recently. It's just like It's now. When does it end? Summertime ends this weekend, isn't it?
I don't know. I'm pretty sure it's this weekend.
That's it. No more. You've had your sunshine. You've had your 2 weeks. You've got to wait another 6 months now before you get any more summer. No more sun now. It's gonna be overcast. It's like living in, somewhere where the sun never kind of just rises. It's always sort of slightly grey.
I'm sure last time you had me on, I was complaining about it being too hot. So,
yeah, I know you don't like the warm weather. I know you don't like the sun. Well, too much sunshine.
You can't win.
No, you can't win. But that's the thing. See, because when the this kind of weather comes, everyone moans. Oh, it's always raining. It's awful. It's so cold. And then the summer comes. Oh, it's too hot. It's too hot. Well, make your mind up. What do you want? What do you want?
We want to complain about the weather. That's what we want.
You can just constantly complain about the weather.
Yeah.
But anyway, so it's Halloween soon, and of course, I thought, I need to do an episode on some Halloween things. Before we run down that road, I wanted to ask you, growing up, Halloween, what was your kind of thing that you did when you was a kid growing up?
You know what? We didn't really do Halloween when I was a kid. My parents were they're sort of very churchy people, and they didn't really approve of the idea of, dressing up as demons and going around knocking on people's doors and all that. So we weren't allowed to like trick or treat or anything like that. And I was always gutted every Halloween because I loved the idea of it. When as a kid, I was obsessed with ghosts and, creepy, scary stories and things. So Halloween would have been right up my street, but I was always denied the opportunity. It was a very sad time for me. I always felt a bit resentful around Halloween. So that was I didn't really have much experience of Halloween as a child, like myself.
Did you ever dress up for, did you never get invited to any like parties or anything?
No, I didn't get invited to parties. It was a sad time. I used to see the trick-or-treaters knocking on the door, but my parents would turn the lights off, pretend not to be in. I remember once going to my uncle's house for Halloween. I don't know why I was there, but we were staying the night there, and that was the only time really where I've seen them answer the door to trick-or-treaters. My uncle was I don't know what he was up to, but he had this kind of silly string next to the door. So when the trick-or-treaters came, he'd open the door and spray it at them. But that's pretty much my only memory of Halloween where we actually did something for it.
I think growing up, I have kind of vivid memories of me and my brother getting dressed up for Halloween and going out with other My parents wasn't really a thing. My mum was into it. She would like put a bucket of sweets out for the little kids and that, which me and my brother used to sort of, we'll have a few of those. But I would go out with my friends. There were some parents, and we would go around the houses and stuff, and trick or treating. Mm-hmm. But it was. I remember going to a Halloween party once, and it was fancy dress, and I didn't have a fancy dress like set up. So I thought, how can I go in fancy dress so that I'm not just stood there in normal clothes? And so I went to the first aid, because obviously all houses have some sort of first aid box. And I went to the first aid box, and I thought, there's some bandages in here. I'll just borrow those. And it was two like bandages, and I bandaged one arm up, and then I bandaged the other arm up, and that was it. I was out of bandages. So I ended up going to this Halloween party in like a t-shirt and jeans and my trainers with two bandaged forearms, and everybody thought I'd like burnt myself. They're like, "You all right? What happened?" I'm like, "Well, I'm part mummy," and they're like, "Oh, well, okay." But the parents were going, "Are you all right, Reeves? Did you scold yourself or something?" And I'm like, "No, because it's only my forearms that were bandaged. It was like I had some sort of skin disease or something." But there you go.
You could have just worn like a long sleeve shirt and done your face. And then
well, I didn't think I could have. I just didn't think that far down the road. So it was, Well, it was. I didn't feel left out. I felt part of the. There were some pretty good ones. There was one kid there who looked just like Dracula. He had the cape. You remember Dracula on Sesame Street? And, he used to count.
Yeah, the count, yeah.
He had all that garb on. It just looked like it. And I just thought, like, his parents must have spent so much time and money getting a costume together and making him look, just like...
Yeah.
Perfect. And there were, like, other kids there. There was one kid who was a zombie, and he just basically put gel in his hair, ripped his clothes a bit, and just went, "Oh." And that was it. And that was his fancy dress.
I remember other kids. If kids dressed as Dracula around where I lived, it was usually just a bin bag over their head with a hole cut in it for the head to go through, and then a mask or some Dracula fangs or something.
Well, that's real lo-fi.
Yeah,
that's a real lo-fi get up. But then again, pretty remarkable.
Yeah.
Anyway, so as I think anyone hasn't guessed yet, we're going to talk about. Like urban legends of what might be true, what might not be true, might be a little bit of truth, maybe not. So before I start spouting off some of the notes that I've got, have you got any personal urban legends from your sort of your neck of the woods?
Well, I've got one from my childhood. This is quite a good Halloweeny one. Because the origins of the story has a bit of a Halloween theme to it. It was in my primary school in North Wales. There was a story, the toilets, and it would depend on which area of the school you were in, which toilets were supposed to be haunted, because it would change. It was like Chinese whispers around the school. But apparently, one of the toilets in the school was haunted by the White Rabbit, and the story was that years before we'd gone to school, there'd been this Halloween party in the hall at the school, and a girl had gone dressed as a white rabbit, and she'd gone to the toilet at some point, and I don't know what had happened, whether she'd tried to get her outfit off to use the toilet or something, and it got stuck, and she'd suffocated in the outfit. So now, if you go into the toilets on your own at a certain time, you might encounter the White Rabbit, and it was, supposedly it was just the ghost of a girl in an outfit, and everyone was terrified of this thing. I remember my brother telling me that he saw his friend going into the toilet on his own, and he went in after him, snuck in and made weird noises like a rabbit. And he heard this massive bang come from inside the cubicle where his friend was. And his friend didn't come out. He stood outside for a while. He didn't come out. He looked over the top. His friend had climbed up out the window. There's little tiny windows above the cubicles, right out the window to get away from the White Rabbit. So everyone was terrified of it. I read online years ago a post from someone saying that they'd made up the story And they were a bit older than me, so they would have been there like, the generation before I was there. But I've looked for it again since then, and I can't find any trace of this post that someone said they'd made up the White Rabbit story. But yeah, I do sometimes wonder if it's still going, that legend.
The school that I used to go to when I was
a wee little boy,
when I was my infant school, well, infants, junior, it was all kind of one thing. The school that I went to in the olden days, it was a girl and boys school, but the school was cut in half.
Yeah.
So half the school was girls, half the school was boys, but it was all one big school. They got a tower in this school. It's a ding-a-ling bell at the top for letting children know, I suppose, that it's time to go to school and whatever. And it's got I think it's got a clock on it. I can't remember. But anyway, so the story goes that in the olden days, when the school was, I think it was when the school was still Victorian, because it's an old Victorian building, built in 18-something, or maybe earlier, I can't remember. It's all going from memory, and it was such a long time ago. But anyway, so the story goes that this kid, this boy, got into the tower, climbed all the way up to the top of the tower. He was at the top of the tower, proving a point that he wasn't scared to go up there. And it was like a recess, and that somebody dingling the bell, and it scared him, and he fell out of the tower and fell all the way down to the floor, and it killed him. Everybody was told this. It was like, oh yeah, the tower's haunted. You might see the boy in the tower. He might fall out. Don't worry, he's just a ghost. He's not a real person, so don't worry about it. I mean, that's pretty. It could be a real person up there going, I've had enough. I'm not doing my homework. I'm going to jump. And you're like, it's all right, you can jump because I know you're a ghost. And it could be a real person.
Yeah.
How bad would you feel? When you're a kid, I suppose you'd go home and sort of turn on your Nintendo and go, well, whatever, but that's just kids, isn't it?
Yeah.
But anyway, so yeah, we had this story about, stuff like that. And it's weird that schools get that kind of urban kind of myth. There's like you just said, somebody could have just said that in your school, but the white rabbit story, and then over the time, it becomes a thing, doesn't it?
I sometimes wonder if these things actually start to manifest. If they could start out as a rumor, and then enough people believe in it over the years, it sort of becomes real in a way.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you think about it, right? I mean, I don't want to. We do tend to sort of. I'm going to go off on a bit of a tangent here, but that's the nature of these episodes. But the point is that when you say that, it's when you think about urban legends and ghosts and all those kind of spooky things with Halloween and stuff. If you go to like a place and somebody says, oh, this or that, and you believe it and all your friends believe it, and then somebody says, oh, I think I saw something, or I think I experienced something, are we in some way manifesting that, whatever it might be, to happen?
Yeah.
Like you said.
Could be.
The power of thought, the power of our minds. All right, it could be just imagination. It might have been just like a little mouse out for a walk in the evening after his dinner. And then you saw it and thought it was, the ghost of a knife-wielding maniac. So our brains work in mysterious ways.
Yeah.
So anyway, I've got some notes here, and I picked out a few. Some of these urban legends, I think, have been used a lot in films, especially horror films. And I know you like your horror films. I don't mind a horror film. I must say, now, I'm a real fan of anything really 80s, because that's the era that I grew up in, that decade.
Yeah.
When I was a teenager and had all my experiences. So, obviously, I kind of love horror from the 80s, the slashers, the B-movies. I love all those kind of things. I find that the horror films today, they're completely different to the horror back then. The horror stuff today has a very clever way of getting in your head. I've watched some of these what I call modern horror, and they mess with your head. Psychologically, they mess with your head. And I know that's down to good directing and good writing and stuff, and good acting, but I don't know, something different. Like back in the old days, group of teens in a house. Jason comes along, kills them all or whatever. One gets away, and you think, oh, it's great, and then they get killed in the end or whatever. But yeah, some of the modern stuff, bit spooky. But the first one I'm going to mention, the first urban legend, I'm going to mention we'll discuss afterwards because I'd like to hear your first thoughts on it. So it's entitled The Babysitter and the Man Upstairs. Also, it could be two things, but let's read. Classic urban legend involves a babysitter who receives disturbing phone calls from a mysterious person who turns out to be in the same house as her. And it's a cautionary tale of being careful when you're home alone. So maybe this is something that children get told when they get left on their own, don't open the door to anyone. But this kind of thing, it's been used a lot, hasn't it? It's kind of like
yeah, I think so. It's one of the ones I've heard the most, I would say, or like variations of this story. I've heard like different twists on it, but yeah, I think it's just the home, being home on your own is just such a classic scenario for scaring people, isn't it? Everyone gets creeped out when they're in.
Can you remember the first time you were left on your own at home?
No, I can't remember the exact first time, but I remember just like at some point being, I got getting old enough to be left alone in the house, and I would get that creepy feeling. What if someone broke in right now? I wouldn't be able to do anything to defend myself.
I remember being home. My mum's like, "You got to stay in, Reeves. Why? Because you got to look after the cat because he's not well." Our cat was unwell. Yeah. He'd been to the vets and had an operation, and he was still a bit unwell, and he needed to be watched because he was still a bit woozy from the medicine. So he was like, we didn't want him pooing everywhere. So I had to watch him, and I was, my mum went out with my younger brother, and she said, "You got to stay in." And my dad was away. My dad used to work away. And I remember being in the house, and I was watching, I don't know what I was watching, Doctor Who or something on the TV. In the front room, in front of the coal fire. Cat was in the box, asleep, and I heard this almighty bump from upstairs. Now, it could have been anything. Something falling. It was above. It was like our bedroom. Well, my brother and I used to share a bedroom when we was young. It was come from our section, our area of the house, and it's most probably toys falling on the floor or whatever. I was downstairs, and I thought it was monsters. I immediately thought like someone was up there, or something something was up there that was evil, and I couldn't go upstairs. And I remember standing at the bottom of the stairs, looking up the dark stairway, because I didn't want to put the light on, because if I put the light on, then whatever it was out there knew I was at the bottom of the stairs.
Knew you were there, yeah.
And I stood there looking and waiting. I just didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
Have you had those experiences as a kid?
I can't remember exactly anything like that happening. I remember I was always terrified of something being in the house. I always had the idea that someone could have snuck into the house at some point during the day and secreted themselves like in my cupboard. I would always have to like go and check the cupboard. Like, what if someone was waiting in there for nightfall just to sneak out and murder us all? And I don't know why I got convinced with the idea that someone could be in the house waiting in there. I suppose it has happened in real life. Though,
definitely, yeah.
Never to me. So I don't know. That was always my like creepy thing, that I would just be obsessed with the idea of having to check I wouldn't be able to sleep unless I like got up and checked something. And I don't know. I was also terrified of like, I don't know, when you said that about turning on the lights because things would know you were there. I would be the same, like making a noise at night. I always think there would be some like ghost or something outside my room, and if I made too much noise, it would like hear me and come in, stuff like that. So
it's weird how kids. I mean, when you're a kid, your imagination is so like vivid, and you imagine so many weird thing. I mean, I remember I couldn't sleep if my mum used to, we had a hanger on the back of our bedroom door, and my mum would hang all our coats and dressing gowns and all those things on the back of the door. Me and my brother would just leave them on the floor, but she would come in and hang them all up. And I remember waking up one night and looking, and the light, she used to leave like a landing light on, so we get a little bit of light coming in the room. And I remember waking up, and I was very early in the morning, and I looked towards the door, and the door was slightly open, but the way that the light was coming through the door, it was creating like a silhouette of. It was like semi-illuminating the door, the stuff that was hung on the back of the door. And I lay there for about 5-6 minutes, just absolutely petrified, thinking, what is that bloke doing in my room? I just thought it was a person just stood there like waiting. And it was like, I didn't want to move, because I thought if I move, it's going to know I'm awake. So I'm not going to move. And I must have fallen to sleep because, you wake up, you go back to sleep sort of thing. But yeah, I never used to like things hung up in the room like that, or things on the backs of chairs or stuff.
Yeah, like a pile of clothes, and it always forms the shape of some face or someone's hunched down. Yeah, honestly, most of my memories of going to bed as a child was just lying there in absolute terror for like an hour or two before falling asleep, because I'd just be I was so obsessed with ghosts and things. I'd be listening to every little noise in the house, and I swear I used to start like imagining things. I remember once when like looking at a poster on the wall, and I swear I could like see the mouth moving on the poster, like in the dark. I could see the mouth, the lips moving, and I was convinced that it was happening, but I was just staring at it. Oh my God.
Well, we were talking earlier. about leaving sweets and candy and things like that out for children, and being part of Halloween is giving little kids sweets and stuff and things like that. So there's another urban legend here where it is called razor blades in Halloween candy. It says this urban legend warns parents about the supposed danger of finding razor blades, needles, and other harmful objects in Halloween candy. It says, whilst there's been isolated incidents, they are extremely rare, and in most cases are down to hoaxes or accidents. What worries me the most is it's like, this is something that doesn't happen all the time, but it has happened. I mean, that's kind of creepy in itself. I've got all these I've got a Bounty bar here, but I've secreted a razor blade into it. I mean, who does? I mean, that's like something straight out of a horror film.
Yeah, I mean, there's some nutters out there, isn't there? It's definitely something people could do.
I mean, wow. It actually does sound like, it does sound like something that you would see in a horror film.
I wonder how often, it's just a kid who's got some candy at Halloween, and they've decided to freak their parents out by like sticking a needle in it and going, "Oh, look, Mum, look what was in my chocolate bar."
Yeah, I've got this syringe, and it was in it was in me Twix, and now I want a free Twix for a year from the Twix factory because you sold me a Twix with a needle in it.
Yeah,
I'm sure there's people that do that. I'm sure there's people that buy something and go, "I really like this. Oh, it's delicious. If I put some glass in this and complain, I'll get free whatever it might be, Frey Bentos oven pie." Remember those? Remember the Frey Bentos pie? They're lovely.
Nice.
For a year. You get it for a year. And I got free food, guaranteed. As long as I like steak and kidney pie, I'll be fine. Don't know how we got to that from glass in chocolate. But yeah, so anyway, I'm urban. I think more of an urban legend rather than something that could happen quite easily. But then again, we live in a wacky world, and I'm not surprised that this has happened at some point.
Yeah, I remember researching that topic of like, food tampering and that sort of thing. I mean, I know it has happened, but the razor blades in the candy, I couldn't find like very good sources for like times where it had actually happened. This was years ago. I looked into it though, so I can't really remember. I remember there was also some stories about like LSD being put into sweets and handed out at Halloween, and I couldn't find if that was actually true or not, or if it was just like a case of like hysteria. Because I thought, why would people put like spend money on LSD just to sort of put it into sweets and give it to children.
I mean, as bad as that is, that would be pretty funny seeing a bunch of kids dressed as like Dracula and Frankenstein literally tripping their nut off down the road. I mean, it would be funny, but it's not good. It's a bad thing. But there's always that other side where you think, well, what would it be like? And that,
I suppose,
you know,
I don't think there was any truth to it from what I looked into it, and I think there was like a bit of a mass hysteria event. I think it was like in the 70s. I reckon some kids ate too much candy at Halloween, had a bad stomach, you know, said they were feeling a bit funny, and then the parents jumped to conclusions and thought they'd been drugged.
Yeah, you think about it. I'm just dawning on me now that, you know, they've got all these households. Your children go out, and you guys just go out with like, go have a little bobby, take your bucket and put your costume on. Make sure your forearms are bandaged, because that's your costume. That's all I can afford. And go out with Bobby and knock on all the doors, and you can get your sweets. And when you come back, you can gorge yourself. You can gorge yourself on all that chocolate and Chewits and Spangles and Panda Pop and, you know, Space Invaders.
Yeah. They tell you the whole rest of the year, don't take sweets from strangers. Whatever you do, don't talk to strangers. Don't take sweets. Right, for one night, you can go out and knock on strangers' doors and take.
I just take stuff that they give you.
Fine. Yeah.
Yeah. I just I always see the irony in things, and I just look at that and I think, you know, I'm not being some people might think, oh, you're just doing too negative, Reeves. I'm not being negative. There is a funny side to everything, and there is a serious side to everything. And the fact is that, you know, you're a parent and you're very protective over your children, which is a good thing. But there one night of the year when you're like, yeah, it's all right, just go out and be yourself. Just go out and live a little. Just knock on a few doors. It's all right. And take whatever they give you.
I mean, these days, most of the time when I've seen trick-or-treaters, it's been kids and they've had their parents standing at like the end of the driveway to keep an eye on them. When I was a kid, it wasn't like that. It was like everyone was just going out on their own, you know.
It has changed a lot. The world we live in has changed a lot in the last couple of decades. And, you know, you have to be a bit more protective of your children now. But, yeah, I just think that when you was kids, it was like when I was a kid, you know, a little kid back in the, 70s, late 70s. I'd go out with my mates and we'd dress up and go banging on doors. Most people would tell us to off or get off my lawn or don't touch that car. And some people would give you a bag of sweets or a tango or whatever. So, it was, but you just went out on your own with your mates and you'd just go and wander the streets for like 3 hours and then go home and, you know, and your parents are like, you know, what'd you get? And you're not eating all that at once and you take it all upstairs and gorge yourself on it and be sick and go, I can't go to school today, but I've got a bad stomach. Yeah, and then you'd get up and watch school's TV the next day. How we used to live and all that. And Music Box. God, I'm getting so nostalgic now. People are going, shut up, you're going too far back in time. So, yeah. But anyway. So, I got another one here.
Right.
So, this is the haunted house that is actually haunted. It says, some say that certain haunted houses set up for Halloween attractions are actually built on real haunted grounds, and visitors can experience real paranormal activity firsthand. This is whether these are true or not. It still adds a layer of spookiness to the attraction. I really thought about this one, and what a great... I mean, there must be places out there. Obviously, there are. I mean, there's lots of places that are allegedly got ghosts and paranormal activity, and they do get opened at Halloween, and you can get ghost tours and stuff like that. But what about people who have got a place, and they don't tell anyone that it's apparently haunted, but they open it up? Like some of these places that don't get used throughout the year, but at Christmas, not Christmas time. Well, I suppose you could have like an evil Santa, but at Halloween time, they get opened up as a horror attraction or whatever, but they are like real places that have had horror in them. What do you think about that?
And you just go in and you think, bloody hell, they've got good special effects in there. I saw an actual transparent woman walking down the hallway. Yeah. I don't know how they did that. Yeah, I don't know. Haunted houses, I don't know. Do they do them around where you live? I've never seen a haunted house attraction around here. I
mean, Halloween is an American thing. And I think in America, if you look, that is a thing. You go out and you can go to a haunted attraction. Over here, there are places. There is a place up your neck of the woods, I think. It's an old fairground, which closed down a long time ago, but there's still buildings there, but they open up and dress up all creepy.
Yeah, it's got like a hedge maze and stuff. There's that sort of thing. There's a few of them around the country, but I've never seen one where someone just like does up their house like a spooky haunted house and lets people come and walk around it. And it sounds fun, actually. I'd love to see something like that, but it seems to be more of an American thing from what I know.
Well, health and safety, innit? Sorry, mate, you can't open that ass up. It's been abandoned, and everyone will have to wear a hard hat and glasses.
Yeah, that'll be it.
And a day glow jacket. Unfortunately, I don't think that's going to happen unless you've got all of the correct paperwork. But I do like the idea of a actual haunted house being opened up as a haunted house for Halloween.
Yeah,
that's brilliant.
So would it be like they just open the house and it's just as it is, just all dilapidated?
But they don't tell you.
Just walk, or would it be like they actually put like decorations and jump scares?
It says a Halloween attraction, so I reckon they must dress it up. If they dressed it up, but what the point is that when you go in there and go, oh, did you poke me in the back? That was actually a ghost. That was Cheeky Roger, the naughty ghost who pokes people in the back, literally. Yeah. But you think that was amazing. That must have been like compressed air or something. Must have been like a stick. He must be poking people with a stick. And it wasn't. It was the ghost of Naughty Roger, who haunts the house to this day, apparently. Yeah, I just made a ghost there. I just made up a ghost. Yeah.
It's a good one. It sounds believable.
You could do a TV series out of that. I reckon you could get at least 3 episodes of Most Haunted out of that. Part 1, Part 2, Part 3. The first one is the beginning bit of Naughty Roger. Then the Part 2 is the disappearance, and then the resurgence of Naughty Roger, who's even more angry. But yeah. Anyway, Ghostly Hitchhikers. Did you know there's 2 versions of Ghostly? I didn't know this, but if you split this in 2, the first one is the Ghostly Hitchhiker, right? And he is, the legend is a ghostly figure, appears on the side of the road, and he's like dressed in old-fashioned clothing, or he looks like he's, normal guy, and he'll thumb you for a ride. Well, actually, I should rephrase that. He'll wave you down for a ride, and then you'll get in your car, and you'll be, do you want a cigarette? What's the day radio, or it's raining again. And he doesn't say anything, and then you drop him off. He gets out, and off he goes. And you think that's weird, and then he's gone. There's that one. And then you've got the vanishing hitchhiker. So it's kind of the similar thing, but it's a variation on the ghostly hitchhiker, where this person will, once again, you give him a lift. He'll get in your car, but he never gets out. And you'll be driving along, chatting about, I don't know, It's a Knockout or whatever. And you look in the mirror and he's gone. He didn't get out of your car. And there is actually a case, for the life of me, I can't think where in the world, but there is a case of an individual. I can think of 2 cases right now. It's on a certain straight bit of road. I don't know if it's Australia or somewhere like that, or it may be in Europe, but I don't think the area is where it is important, but it's the story is basically an individual trying to think. Well, an individual, I think it was a policeman or it was an individual. They were driving their car, and they gave a lift to someone, and this person vanished, and they panicked. They went and got the police. The police came out and followed them to this area of the road, and they said, "Oh, it happened here." They drove. The policeman followed, and he watched the person in the car pull over, and he saw the rear of the car door open and then close, but no one get in the car. Yet the person that was in the car saw the woman, I think it was, get in the car. There's another case where a guy on a motorcycle was riding, and a person appeared as a pillion. I think it was a woman with her hands. He first became aware of somebody on the rear of his motorcycle when he felt their hands on his side gripping his jacket, and he looked over his shoulder, and there was a woman, no helmet or anything, just normal clothes, and he panicked, and he stopped his bike, and there was no one there.
Yeah. Oh God,
that's creepy in itself, isn't it?
Yeah. And there's so many road stories like that. Another common one I've heard is not really like a hitchhiker one, but it's where you'll be driving along a road, and then suddenly you'll see someone in front of the car, and you'll hit them, and you're sure that you've knocked someone down, and they stop and get out, and they look, and there's nobody there. I've heard variations of that story.
Creepy. Canuck Chase's got some good stories for stuff like that, but it's mainly with like devil dogs and beasts and stuff that are seen in the road, and people are driving late at night in the country area, and then they see this, this thing in the road, and they stop the car, and then it's gone.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of stories like that, and like it's sort of like Wolfman type of stories as well, where there's something just jumps out in front of the car and then goes off into the bushes. And I
remember once I was coming back from the city, and it was a dark, and I thought I'd take a shortcut, and I shortcutted through a village that I used to live at, and the village is basically, it's surrounded by farms. It's in the middle of nowhere, and it was quite late at night. It's about 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, and there's no street lights out there, only in the built-up areas. But I was cutting through like back lanes and country roads and stuff, and I'm riding, and I look down at my petrol gauge, and it's less than 1 bar of petrol left, and I'm thinking, I hope I don't break down here. I hope I don't run out of fuel, because I do not know where any petrol stations are, and it was the most panicky. And I'd got lost because I wasn't sure where I was going. I'd lost my phone signal, so I didn't have my Google assistant chatting in my ear, in my headset, to tell me where to go. And it was like, I don't know where to go. I'm just going to follow this road. And the petrol gauge was quite low, and I thought, I was pretty all right. I must probably had 10 miles or 20 miles, but by looking at the petrol gauge, I was panicking. And I rounded a corner in the middle of nowhere, right? And it was like a vision. A little bit further down the road, on this straight road in pitch blackness, was this red glow of a Texaco station. And I was like, oh, thank God for that. It was like an oasis in the pitch black. And I went in and filled me bike up, and then I got home eventually. But it's like, when you're in those situations, if something happened, if I'd have pulled over and seen something, what would you have done?
I love stories like that. I've been reading a book called Trucker Ghost Stories, and it's all about like there's people on their own in the middle of nowhere driving down a highway, and something weird will happen. Like there's not many like actual phantom hitchhiker stories, but there's like just weird experiences that they have. Like they'll see like the exact same car will pass with the same people in it, will pass them. Yeah. But there's no, like, twice. It's as if they've like seen like a doppelganger, or there's one where someone got stuck in the snow in the middle of nowhere, and this truck arrived and sort of escorted them out, and this truck was behind them, leading them out, showing them the road out. And then they looked in the rearview mirror, and the truck was gone, and there was only one set of tracks from their own car the whole way back along this road.
That's mad.
Weird stories. Yeah, I love stories about because I don't drive myself, so like it's not really a thing that I can relate to. But I just love the idea of driving somewhere alone in the dark and something eerie happening like
yeah,
that.
I was truly worried, and I wasn't scared, but I was very worried. I was in the middle of nowhere. I wasn't sure. I knew kind of where I was, but I wasn't sure because it was so dark. I wasn't sure exactly where I was, and I wasn't familiar with the road in the middle of the night. And I was thinking, if I run out of petrol now, I don't know where I need to go to get. I mean, I leave my bike somewhere. I'm going to have to walk. Maybe I need to get a petrol can. Hassle. It was just, maybe if you see something or maybe you were walking down the road and so you see a geezer on the other side of the road and he just stood there looking at you. And you think, and then you look back and he's gone. And you think, where did he? It's like a spider in your room. And you look at the spider and you look away to get something and he's gone. And you think, where did that go? I cannot move until I know where that thing's gone. It's a spider syndrome.
There's a road near where my parents live in North Wales, which is like, there's a long winding road with like, one of those like sort of country roads with thick hedges on either side. Like no path down the side. It's just a narrow road of thick hedges. And apparently people have been driving down there and they've seen an old lady walking along the side of the road. And they pass her and they look in the rearview mirror and she's just gone. And there's nowhere she could have gone because it's just hedges and fences along the way. There's nowhere for her to disappear into. Multiple people have seen that.
There's a case of I think it was two people or one person. I think they were driving or walking down a country road, and they saw a woman who they came around the corner and they saw a woman in the middle of the road in what they describe as dressed as the kind of the old-fashioned bed nighty thing that you would wear, like all in white. And they saw this person, and it was like an apparition. It vanished when they approached it. It kind of it just kind of vaporized. It disappeared. And it was more than one person that had seen this this apparition, and it was we don't know what it is. We don't, you need to research the whole area, but it does happen, and people do see things like that. What they are, what causes them. Maybe it's atmospheric conditions. Maybe it's the individual themselves that's, subconsciously projecting something, or maybe something's tapping into their subconscious to see that. We don't know, but it is scary. Especially, I don't know what it is about the countryside and the dead of night that I admire people that it's like I know we're going off a bit of a tangent here, but I'm just going to say you sent me a link a while back to, it's actually a channel that I do reasonably now and again watch. Now that I do find these solo wood and night camps interesting. I always found them fascinating.
Oh yeah, I read the video.
Chap that goes in the woods, and I remember the episode that you sent me. He goes to a particular area, and it's a summer evening, and he's doing a little cookout. He's having some food, and in the middle of him recording, he says, "I can hear footsteps around me, like someone's walking around." Yeah. And he gets so spooked that he packs up and he leaves, doesn't he?
And they're really clear. You can hear them really loudly on the camera. It sounds like someone just walking around like next to the camera. It's really eerie.
But the thing is, he can hear it as well as he's recording it, and you can see he's visually unsettled by it.
Oh, aye.
And he decides that no, my gut feeling is telling me to leave, and he does. He packs all his stuff up because he was going to do like an overnight stay, and he leaves. But a few more episodes later, he goes back to that area and he does do an overnight stay, and he said he was fine. But that one night, and you can see the whole area around him. It's like there is a wooded area, but you can clearly see into the woods, and those footsteps had to have been very close to the camera microphone. Mm-hmm. Because they were,
and he's shouting out as well, like hello, like no one answers, so it's just like weird footsteps around.
It's creepy.
Yeah, I think I would leave as well, to be honest. If that was me, I wouldn't stay around.
Anyone listening, I'll put a link to the episode that we're talking about in the show notes so that you can go and watch that episode. But it is a bit weird. It's a bit creepy.
Yeah.
But I thought what we do, as we're coming to the end of this episode, I thought what we do is we'll end it on what I would say is quite a classic urban tale. And you're most probably well versed in this, but it's the urban legend of Bloody Mary. And for anyone that doesn't know, this legend, it involves looking into the mirror and chanting Bloody Mary particular number of times. Some say like 3, some like 12. It's just a number of times, and that by doing this, you summon this vengeful spirit. And some versions that claim that Mary was a witch, or a murdered woman, or somebody that was killed and is seeking revenge. Was that a thing when you were growing up? I remember that being actually a thing when I was growing up, looking into the mirror and calling out, doing that kind of chanting.
I remember kids talking about it, but I don't remember anyone actually doing it. I don't think I ever did Bloody Mary when I was a kid, but I was definitely aware of it. There was a few legends like that I seem to remember about involved looking into a mirror and doing this. Isn't there one where you've got to look into a mirror and eat an apple and comb your hair and you'll see your true love standing behind you or something weird like that?
That's just getting up in the morning to get ready for work.
I'm sure I've heard something like that. There's I don't know, because they say mirrors are supposed to be like portals to the
netherworld,
to the other world, don't they? Yeah. They used to like cover up mirrors when people died because they stopped the spirit getting out or getting in or something like that.
Well, yeah.
I know. I didn't. Did you ever do Bloody Mary when you were?
We didn't.
A kid?
We didn't do Bloody Mary. We had in our when I was growing up as a wee boy, we had this kind of thing where if you looked into a mirror and you could you didn't have to say anything, you just had to stare into the mirror, and after a while you could see someone stood behind you. And it was like we had one guy that did it and said, "Yeah, I did it," and this man appeared behind me and he was looking at me and he didn't move, and then I looked round and there was no one there. It was just no one there. It was just my bedroom with my ZX Spectrum. But yeah, I just I do remember one kid saying he did it, but was he? I mean, if you put it this way, if you stare at anything for long enough, it kind of changes shape. It changes its appearance. So if you stare into a mirror for long enough, I think that, our brains work on shapes, and we kind of make stuff in our head. And I'm not saying that that people that have had this experience with stuff like that is making it up. I'm not saying that. All I'm doing is offering a different opinion of what it might be. But yeah, it was a thing when we was kids. Don't look in the mirror. If you say it 14 times, spin around, clap your hands, and eat some crisps, you'll be haunted forever. Or or the spirit will it will come into you, or something like that. So yeah, we had all these different things about ghosts and don't do this and don't. Well, I'm trying to think. There was another one at our school. There was another. It was some story based around the assembly room where all the kids, you go to like morning. Did you have a morning assembly?
Yeah,
You'd go in there, and then the headmaster would come up and he would tell you stuff. You know what? I went to school for all those years, and I can't remember one time where I can actually remember what the headmaster was telling us about stuff. I just can't remember. But I remember being in school, and my friend went to a different school, and I was jealous that his assembly, when they went into assembly, they all sat down on chairs. When I was at school, we all had to stand up for 15 minutes. And everyone, you always had that kid at the back that passed out, didn't you? Yeah, always that one kid.
That was me once, actually. Was it? It got so hot. I got so hot, I felt myself starting to sway, and I had to get out. One time.
Always, assembly, there was always a kid at the back, and he would always fall over, and then the fire doors would open up, and the teachers would drag him. Well, not drag him. That sounds pretty fierce. Just drag him out. It'd be all right. They kind of helped him outside and put him outside on a plastic chair, and he would sit there, and he would just get him a glass of water, out of a plastic school jug in one of those plastic Tupperware school blue things. And I remember all the wrong details. I remember too many wrong things about school. But I remember every table had a thing of water on it. Remember that? But so there was there was that thing. But there was something about the assembly hall. There was this kind of urban legend or school tale about don't go on the stage. It's cursed or it's haunted or there's tunnels under the stage. There actually is tunnels under the stage. I remember that being somebody told us that once. Said, yeah, if you go in the assembly hall and there's a trap door and you can go under the stage and you can go through the whole school. And we're like, yeah, shut up. What are you on about? What is this? This is not Colditz, mate. But and me and my mate Nick. We were in there one day and we're doing like music lessons. So the teacher put us in the assembly room because the music block was part of where the assembly hall was. And he put us in there because we're playing guitars. And he's like, oh my God, what a racket, get in there. And we're sat in there and we're like, play this song. Hang on a minute, what's that door there? And we're looking on the stage, right? Behind the what's it called? Where the teacher stands and got his book and he tells you and he's got a microphone. That thing. There was a door and we opened it up, right? And it went down under the stage. And we're like, oh my God, this is real. This is real. We're going to go under the stage and we're going to be able to transverse the whole school. It's going to be like, we're going to have our own network of travel. All of my mates are going to be down here and this is how we're going to get around. No, it only went the area of the stage, so it was blocked off. But we were able to get to one part of it, was able to get to the lecture theatre, which was like down a really short area where it was like heating pipes and stuff. But anyway, so being young kids, being teenagers, we thought, what can we do down here? I know, let's have a cheeky smoke. So we're under a stage in the school, having a cheeky smoke under the stage, having a puff, right, with our B&H, sharing a cigarette, as you do, make them last longer, don't strain it, right? And the teacher comes in, and we hear the door going, and he comes in, and we hear him clumping along, and he goes, Reeves, Nick, And he stood there, right, and we hear him go, and we hear him walk up on the steps, up on the stage, and he's walking right above us. It's like we're in some sort of escape film, and he's like the soldier looking for us. we're trying. And the thing is, right, my mate, right, it's his turn on the cigarette, and he's puffing away on this cigarette, thinking, you bastard, you're smoking all that cigarette. And he's got all this smoke in his mouth, and he can't let it out, because obviously, if he blows it out, it might go up through the floorboards. So and we were like petrified, and then he was walking around the stage, and then he walked back down, and we heard him muttering to himself, and he went out the door, and my mate's coughing like he's got all this. We climb out of this thing, right? We climb out of this trap door, and we're literally right covered in like cobwebs and years of dust, right, on our black trousers and our school uniform, and he comes back in. And he goes, where have you two lads been? And I'm like looking at him, and my Nick's looking at me, and I'm looking at the teacher, and we're like, we dropped something on the thing, and it went through the floor. We had to go down and get it, sir. On the you shouldn't be going down there. Don't you be going down there. Look at the state of you. Clean yourselves up. And we're like, God, how did we get away with that? But yeah, some of the great stories of my school years, which completely went off tangent to urban legends, it started with an urban legend, and it finished with us being under a stage like it was a war film. But there you go.
Well, at least you found a tunnel.
Yeah.
Because there always used to be rumours of tunnels in under places that led somewhere when I was a kid, and they never turned out to be true. Or at least we never found them. Well, there was always stories about tunnels connecting different buildings together and stuff like that. I'll
tell you, that's not the only tunnel I discovered, and I would love to go back. Years and years ago, I worked in a kitchen in a large what you call a theatre. And in the olden days, it was a theatre in the Victorian days, but now it was a ballroom. And it was it had a cafe and they used to make food. And my first job was basically collecting plates and cups in this old theatre, which has now been converted into like apartments and stuff. The building's still there, it's just it's repurposed. And I remember one of the ladies, it was two old ladies that used to run the cafe, and she comes out and she goes, "Reeves dear, can you go upstairs and get some more chairs? Because we've got a big crowd coming in, and there's not enough seats for them to sit down." Because they had like a ballroom dancing thing. And I'm like, "Yeah, all right." And I go upstairs, because I talked like that when I was younger. And I went upstairs, right? and I took the wrong turn in, right? Rather than go into this like little room where they kept all the chairs, I kept on going. So I went up the stairs, and then I went up another flight of stairs, and I thought, "Oh, it's all a bit dark up here, and it's all a bit cobwebby." And I pushed this door open, right? It was like really stiff, and I'm like pushing it. It was like something out of a horror film. I pushed this door open, and I looked, and it was all these kind of cubicles, right? And either side, right? And it was a dressing room, but it was like a multi-dressing room where you'd have, because in the olden days it was a theatre, so people would be up there getting ready for stuff. And I went into this area, right? And it was all cobwebby. It was all like decay and stuff like that. But each little cubicle, right? It had there were like pictures and signed pictures of actors that have played in that place. And I'm like looking, not knowing who these people are, but there was loads of them. And there were things up there like props and clothes and from the olden days, just left. And it was all like, oh, I'd love to have gone and ghost hunted somewhere like that. And I'm like walking around there. And of course, then the lady said, "What are you doing up there?" And I comes down and I'm like, "Oh, I got my chairs." And I've got my chairs and bring them back down and set them up. And then I always thought of, how do I get back up there? I need an excuse, but they wouldn't, because they had like a safety chain so public wouldn't go up there. And I never knew how to get back up there. I was only a young kid, and I didn't know how to get back up there. But years later, I get to work in another place, which was the Winter Gardens. We've got some Winter Gardens down here. It's now been repurposed for like the college. But back in those days, like, I don't know, 20, nearly 30 years ago, I used to work there in those kitchens. And I was in the main, they had a ballroom as well, a big ballroom. And they were putting on a function. And I had to help set the tables up. Because I was an assistant in the kitchen, so I had to help. And round the outside, they had this like tunnels under the flooring, and I went under there to get these foldable tables out, to move them out so that the guys could undo them and put them out. And I was the scallywag, so I had to go under there. And I was under there, right? And they had all this stuff from like the olden days, like old posters and old billboards and stuff like that. And you could walk around under there. It wasn't like you weren't crawling about. You could hunched a little bit, but you could walk around, and you could go all the way around the outside of the ballroom. It was amazing. So yeah, things like that fascinate me. Stuff like that in history adds to the kind of ghostiness. And of course, I was interested in the paranormal back then, so. Immediately to me, it was there was a ghost down there, and it was haunted. So yeah,
I love secret tunnels. I mean, it always seemed to be a common theme on the show Most Haunted, was that there was a legend of a spooky secret tunnel under whatever building they were investigating. There always seems to be.
I bet
these
there are loads.
tales.
I bet a lot of these old. I'm not on about the buildings that have got like. Priest holes and stuff like that, but I'm on about in general, like castles and that, secret tunnels and secret areas that they don't tell the public about. They just don't want, because they don't want people going and trying to get in them. And I bet there's loads out there, and it would be so great to go and wander around those and just to explore and just have a look around.
Yeah, I was looking into what it's a bit impromptu, so I don't have the actual name of the place. There's a old mansion somewhere in England where years ago the guy who owned it was really eccentric and just didn't want to see any people or deal with anyone. So he built this series of tunnels underneath the mansion, and apparently he just spent years and years excavating this land. And there was like you can like drive a horse and cart down there, and there's like almost like a big ballroom type of area. But I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head. But there's videos of people going down there and doing like urban exploration of him. But they're all like shut off now. I think they should open up and let people see.
Well, that would be, I mean, there must be places that are loads of places like that around that we just, I mean, you know, there are like military places where they have underground bases and that are disused, and they're just, you know, some places are absolutely bigger than the places they're built below. I mean, there's a place that is, I'm trying to think where it is, but it's below a village, and it's twice the size of the village, and it's got over 25 miles worth of roads, and you can literally drive a car down there. It's the width is that much, but there was this legend that you have to go through this kind of like cave system to how the urban explorers get to it. They go through this like cave system, this like mine, and there's this legend of the I think it's the Red Door, the legend of the Red Door. There's a door in this mine somewhere that if you can access it and get through this door, then you can get access of a part of the base that is sealed off to the normal part of the underground complex. And I think the stuff like that is so intriguing. It might be a lot of old chuff, and somebody might have made it up, and it becomes.
Where's that?
I'm trying to think. Exactly. I'll have to look it up and send you the link. But it's an underground complex that was a military installation, and it's open to the public now. You can get a ticket and go down there on a tour, and it's huge. It's absolutely bonkers massive. But I think the urban myth is that there's other areas to it, and that it's sealed off from the public. And people are going, why is it still sealed off? What's down there? So yeah,
there's a place in like North Yorkshire, isn't there, where it's like old RAF base with tunnels underneath, and they say there's like weird satanic graffiti down there, and some kid went down there and went missing and stuff.
I love stuff like that. You see, I love. Yeah, it's little Timmy went down there, and he went down a tunnel, and we never seen again. Gone.
Yeah, it's all closed off. Though. RAF Bempton.
That's it.
I'm just looking it up. Yeah, there's like weird graffiti down there.
Yeah, just you wonder. It's like the catacombs in France, in Paris, in France. Before the what they called the guys that transverse cataphiles. Is it cataphiles? They're the people that map the catacombs that aren't open to the public, and they can give you. Here's the thing, right? From what I know, you've got to be careful. A lot of urban explorers have been duped into people coming and going, oh, I'll give you a tour down there. And they go into the catacombs, get led into a particular area, and then they'll be mugged. And they'll like, give me all your gear. Give me a camera and give me all your gear. And then they get left down there, and then they start panicking. And then out of nowhere, like an hour later, someone will come along and go, are you all right? You know, well, I'm just down here exploring. Oh yeah, I got mugged. Oh, I'll show you the way out. Well, that other person is the other person's mate who's come down to make sure you get out of the catacombs, because you literally can get lost in there. You're in the pitch black.
Yeah,
you know, and it can be very dangerous.
And they go on for miles and miles, don't they? Absolutely miles. You can just get.
I mean, imagine being. There's the classic, I suppose it's a Halloweeny, but there's the classic video that's on YouTube, which is the individual that was videotaping down there, and he got lost and he starts panicking, and he drops the camera on the floor, and you see him run off into the distance, and allegedly never to be seen again. Some people say that was all staged, you know, and other people say, oh, it's real. That really happened. Well, we know it really happened, but, you know, was the guy ever found? Who knows? But I could imagine someone, if you become disorientated and you became lost in somewhere like that, how easily you could lose your your composure. Just wanted to get out, you know.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, but anyway, I think that we've come to the end of this Halloween talk on weirdness and urban legends. Hope everybody's enjoyed it. What are your I was going to say, have you doing any Halloween games over this weekend? Because you've been doing a lot of the gaming stuff lately.
On my live streams.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'll get a chance to play any games on the weekend. I don't really get much time to stream. It's usually the weekday. But,
have you got any?
I mean, maybe I'll
spooky stuff. What are you playing at the moment?
I've been playing through Resident Evil again.
Classic.
Yeah, the remake of Resident Evil is really good. I've just played through that twice because I enjoyed it so much. I might play through it again actually because I'm in the mood for it. And then I've got a thing on my Twitch now where people can request games. So a lot of the time I'm playing like random requests of people, but they're always like a horror game usually, and they're usually quite fun. So yeah, I don't know. I haven't really got anything. I've just finished Resident Evil, so I haven't got anything planned to play next. But yeah, I'm always playing something random, some weird horror game.
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks again, Tom, for joining me on another Halloween episode because you were with me at last Halloween. And well, obviously everyone check out Tom's gaming. There'll be links will be in the description below with this episode. I'd like to thank everyone for listening and for your support and feedback. And remember, if you're able to, share the episode if you're able to, and leave a review because it all helps. As I say, thanks for listening, and talk to you soon.